Clarence E. Bud Anderson was born in Oakland, California, and raised on a farm 100 miles away near Newcastle, California. At the age of 20, he enlisted in the United States Army as an aviation cadet. He soon earned his combat wings and entered the air war against the Luftwaffe in Europe in September of 1942. Anderson's war effort was impressive, flying 116 missions without a single enemy hit, and having never turned back from a mission for any reason. Anderson's airplane was the remarkable P-51D Mustang, which he named Old Crow, after the whiskey of the same name. Anderson and Old Crow would go on to score a remarkable 16.5 aerial victories, making Anderson one of the war's few American triple aces. Anderson's ability in the cockpit prompted fellow pilot and close friend Chuck Yeager to remark that Anderson was the best fighter pilot I ever saw. After the war, Anderson became a test pilot, first at Wright Field in Ohio, and later at Edwards in California. Anderson was involved in Project Tiptoe, an ill-fated experiment intended as a way to increase the fighter escort range for bombers. The concept involved joining 2 fighter aircraft to each wingtip of a bomber, realizing a more aerodynamically efficient configuration versus 3 individual aircraft flying independently. It was hoped that the increase in efficiency could be translated to increase range, allowing a bomber to enjoy fighter protection for a longer period of time. In theory, this concept had merit from an aerodynamic perspective. However, the mechanics of linking the aircraft up in flight proved dangerous, and the project ended when a bomber and 1 fighter was destroyed with the loss of all of the crew. Anderson, flying the other fighter, was the only survivor. Anderson was also involved in the Parasite Fighter project. Like Project Tiptoe, this concept was meant to provide increased fighter protection to vulnerable bomber aircraft. The project called for the bomber to carry a fighter aboard, attached underneath the aircraft and accessible via the bomb bay. The fighter could then be released should the bomber come under attack. Recovery of the fighter was accomplished through the use of a trapeze mechanism, which could capture the aircraft in flight and retract it up into the bomb bay. Although successful releases and recoveries were performed, the concept was ultimately rejected as impractical. Anderson continued his military career, commanding an F-86 squadron in post-war Korea and an F-105 wing in Okinawa. He completed 2 assignments at the Pentagon and returned to Southeast Asia to command the 355th Tactical Fighter Wing, where he personally flew bombing strikes against enemy supply lines. Anderson retired from the military in 1972 as a colonel. With his impressive military career at an honorable end, Anderson entered civilian life by joining the McDonnell Aircraft Corporation, where he managed the company's flight test facility for 12 years. After full retirement in 1984, Anderson continued to maintain his CFI rating and continued to fly all types of aircraft, including his beloved P-51. Today, Anderson lives in Auburn, California, with his wife of almost 70 years, Eleanor. He continues to give lectures and attend air shows all throughout the country. In all, Anderson has flown more than 130 types of aircraft, racking up more than 7,500 hours. Traded Plane TV recently caught up with Bud Anderson and asked him about flying the Mustang, as well as his favorite aircraft of the many types he has flown. Bud, it's a pleasure to have you here and to be able to talk to us. Can you tell us maybe a little bit about flying the P-51?
Well, the flying of P-51, there's a saying about airplanes that if it looks good, it flies good. Not necessarily true, but in this case, it is true. A Mustang is a beautiful airplane, and it does fly very, very nice. Makes a good sound, and it's a very popular airplane among the warbird community.
Bud, out of all the aircraft that you have flown, which I'm sure is many, 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 can you tell us what your favorite one is and why?
Well, yes. I have flown a lot of airplanes. After World War II, I got into the flight test business, and I've flown over 100 different kinds of airplanes. And depending on how you define a different type of airplane, I may have flown as many as 150 different types of airplane, but definitely over 100. And actually, I have 3 favorites. The Mustang, of course, is number 1. because it is a beautiful airplane, flies good, and it kind of saved the air war in Europe in World War II, and made a major contribution to the victory in the European theater, and got me through the war. So the P-51 Mustang is a favorite. The next one was the North American F-86, swept wing jet airplane, and actually capable of going Mach 1 in a very, very steep dive, but a beautiful airplane and very dependable, and one of the early jets. It was just a remarkable airplane. It's Korean War vintage. And then after I retired in 1972, I was able to, all the new airplanes, like the F-15, F-16, the F-14, F-18, they're all flown by through computers. So you can tell the computer how you want the airplane to fly. And so they end up being very, very good flying machines. So I was very fortunate to get a front seat ride in a F-15 Eagle quite some time ago, and it is just an absolute wonderful airplane to fly. It's so high performance, and it flies beautifully. So those are my three.
You do, and we're glad that you're here, out at Sun and Fun. Thanks for meeting with us.
And I'm glad I'm anywhere.